you'll see them happen. All right, folks, those of you fortunate enough to join us here at Awakairangi Park in Wellington, and those watching from home, welcome to Day 2 of the Division 2 2023 New Zealand Mixed Ultimate Championships. We have a very exciting match for you this morning. Taranaki Thunder having gone 4-0 in our Swiss draw yesterday, so far undefeated, against the hybrid team Morrirua, comprising of players from Morrinsville Ultimate and Rotorua Ultimate. My name, as always, is Blair Munro.
I'm Jackson Zhao.
And I'm Miriam Burke.
And it is a pleasure to be here on this foggy morning for the opening pull as Taranaki Thunder, team playing in light uniforms, come out on defense. Kate Franson to pick up and initiate the offense for Morrirua, pushing towards the far sideline. Benedicto back to Franson. To Carroll, a quick bounce towards that near sideline. Priestley working with Carroll and Franson as she puts up a huge shot looking for Benedicto. And a comfortable first score to open our game. Morrirua up by 1 over Taranaki Thunder in the opening minutes. Now, Miriam, Jackson, you're both experienced, competent, very capable players. I think we're going to be seeing some of you next week at Division 1, Jackson, I believe. Miriam, same story?
Absolutely.
Perfect, right. Cannot wait to have some of my co-commentators out on the field and getting to speak to your inevitable highlights. How do you feel about that first point? Considering your backgrounds in Ultimate, the length of your careers, how good did that look from an offensive standpoint?
They definitely created a lot of space for themselves, which was really impressive. The stack was quite deep, but in conditions like this, it gave them a lot of space under, and they clearly had the long puts to go with it, so it was a smart decision.
Yeah, that flow was quite nice up until the middle of the field and then the long shot going off. So good to see that they have good flow, and they keep going with that flow, so yeah.
Fantastic. We will see if Taranaki Thunder are able to answer in kind. Absolutely fantastic performance from them yesterday. A really, really strong team. They've got a wide depth of experience as Franson puts up the disc. Touching down in the defensive half of Taranaki Thunder, it's Luke Raba to pick up the disc. To Parker, near sideline, marked by Carroll. Looks like Morrirua are going to be coming down with a zone defense, so they're looking to prioritize attacking space rather than isolate those individual matchups. Some great movement off the disc there by Taranaki Thunder.
Yeah,
And
Nickel and JP in the back handling space here, they've done this a lot. They've played against many zones, so they'll be quite comfortable doing that.
a little bit of a lower percentage throw, maybe unstable off the release. Get to turn for Morrirua. Franson once again threading through to Priestley. Kieran Allen trying to get free, marked down by Rava, but he's not going to get away. Franson again, far sideline. Hits the corner, hits the hands, but it's not going to be enough to put Morrirua on the board again. Taranaki Thunder have a long field ahead of them. We've seen some great movement. Rava, Parker, Nickel working through the disc, creating space away from the disc to give those options, making those really nice and secure passes to chip away down the field. It's one of those things early in the morning as Parker swings the disc to the near side for Rava. Big fakes trying to shift the defense. Finds Williams. Rava again. Some really great movement, but we are seeing, and certainly in that last possession before that turnover, before they were able to get it back, those long shots coming out. Great work. They managed to execute successfully on it this time. Booth with the score to bring it to 1-1.
That was a great point by Taranaki. As you can see on the replay there, going side to side and then continuing that flow, eventually going for the score.
They have two really good options for that long shot. They could have gone either side. They've got separation from the defenders and kept the width so that it was really easy for the thrower to put one up.
Absolutely, and one of the main focuses that we identified yesterday during yesterday's games, the importance of having multiple cutters actually in a position to push deep. So not only does it give the thrower more options, it allows them to make a choice as to where they want to put the disc, or if they want to huck and hope, just send it out into deep space, trust one of those deep receivers to pull it down. But it also means that if anything happens, if a defense is able to catch up and get a touch on the disc, there's someone there as support if necessary. Or a couple of our fantastic highlights yesterday happening from that exact situation. And in fact, in recent Trans-Tasman situations where we've had the Japanese women's team over here, we noticed that that was the exact pattern that they tended to use, having two cutters peeling off from the stack for the same throw. But it's Morrirua on offense now, putting a big shot up, looking for Franson, plenty of separation. He's got it. It's cannon after cannon as Morrirua go up 2 points over Taranaki Thunder's 1. We're seeing some really, really good conventional ultimate on display here, working the disc until there's an option available in the attacking half, and then firing through with a long shot to allow them to close out that point. And really, this is what we're hoping to see. The benefit of a Swiss draw is that teams that are evenly matched continue to play each other throughout the tournament. So Morrirua, also a strong team, some really good experience, a lot of previous nationals appearances making their roster. And so seeing these teams trade is really, it's what we're expecting to see on the second day of a tournament. Powick and Ibrahim working the disc for Taranaki Thunder. Managed to hit Makar on the near sideline. You can see there's a bit of a trap on that sideline, but they're able to chip through Holman and Powick. But it looks like there's a foul call. Powick suspecting contact on the release. So it's important to note for those watching at home, Ultimate is a self-officiated game. There are no external officiators or referees on the field. Players take the responsibility of learning the rules, making calls, and resolving them between themselves. So looks like that call is going to be retracted. The disc will have been released before. Kieran Allen got a hand on it. He is a defensive powerhouse. His reflexes are always impressive. More resets to Kieran Allen. Puts up a long shot. Looking for McCoy. A beautiful slide there, but he's not inbounds yet. It's not going to be a score. Jumped in beautifully by Alex Dewhurst. What a rundown. Fantastic work by Morrirua to put them up by 2. An early but not insurmountable lead. We're going to need to see what Taranaki Thunder do to answer it.
The stack is, in my view, starting to come a little bit shallower. Comparatively to the first 2 points, I think Morrirua's stack, the horror stack, was set a bit deeper for more unders, but now they're more shallow, looking for the long shots. So as you can see, the last 2 points for Morrirua have been from long shots. So yeah.
So to clarify that, our horizontal stack, we're trying to set up with 3 of our more confident disc handlers in the upfield space, and the remaining 4 players set up in the downfield space to try and use the width of the field, but it creates a lot of open space for them to attack further towards the end zone and also further towards those handlers in the upfield space. In contrast to a vertical stack, which we saw a lot of yesterday, used very, very well by teams like AUC Flow when they were trying to send Narisa Hansen very deep, stretching that defense. That creates channels on your near and far sidelines for players to attack and break past their defense. Fantastic work by Dewhurst. Nearly getting backpacked by McCoy there in the celebration. But it looks like a timeout has been called. And so, Miriam, if you're Taranaki Thunder, you've had an opportunity here to have a break, to get recentered. You're down by 2. You've made a couple of little errors, and your opposition has capitalized on it. What kind of things would you be saying in that huddle to make sure that everyone is dialed in, getting rid of those errors, making sure that those jitters are out of our system before the next couple of points?
I mean, it looks like they've all got the skills. They've clearly played together quite a lot yesterday, and they know what they need to do. I'd be saying to take a breath, take that moment, engage your dump, get the flow throws going, because they have good flow. It's that static moment when they get caught where they're just rushing that last option.
Absolutely. I mean, looking at some of the disc skills present, I mean, Luke Raba with a fantastic youth representation throughout New Zealand Ultimate history. You've got Sharif Ibrahim, who's performed at Worlds in the past. You've got Jonas Holman, one of ULTI.TV's favorites. He's an absolute prankster, huge bag of tricks. It's always fun to see what he brings to a game. And on top of that, you've just got great disc movement. You've got a lot of experience, a lot of calm. Jana Makar, Jenny Parker as well. Some really, really competent and calm, good leadership players on that Taranaki side. So we're going to see if they're able to bring that together and put another point on the board here. Ibrahim Taraba. We're going to see another Morrirua zone. Looking like they're running a 2-3-2 predominantly. So they've got 2 players up the front trying to funnel the disc towards the middle of the field. A second line of 3 players who are trying to shut down any passes over the top or past those first 2 players. And then Kieran Allen parked up in the deep space to eat about just anything that makes its way past those first 2 lines of defense. Ibrahim resets to Raba. Back to Ibrahim near sideline. He's pointing. He's looking for a long shot, but Carroll's able to shut that down. Raba pushing towards the far sideline now with Hansen. Continues up to Raba. They're being pinned down on that far sideline. There's not a lot of wind, so the hammer comes out, up and over. And Morrirua gets the turn they were hoping for. Benedicto marked by Ibrahim. We see Morrirua using a bit more of a vertical stack now. But they're not able to close. Kieran Allen, he has a cannon, but he's maybe a little bit too far downfield for the length of throw he was trying to put out there. So Taranaki Thunder now have an opportunity to come back the other way.
That was great peel-off defense from Taranaki there.
Williams. Great work on the Morrirua mark. Priestley doing a fantastic job circling around, recognizing that one of the reset handlers was being engaged as a priority option. But Williams goes around to find Raba. The zone closing in. Ibrahim trying to make himself available. Taking the field. Only half a meter at a time. But that is exactly what a zone is trying to do. It's trying to frustrate the offense, get them to take lower percentage options. But with the confident hands of Ibrahim, those low percentage options are not low percent. Paige Hansen looks back, finds Ibrahim. Having to push the far sideline. Williams taking a scuba over the top and quickly dishing back to Raba. Once again, going over the top. There are a couple of ways to break a zone. Going over the top is one of them. Paige Hansen to find Dylan Booth just outside of the end zone. Looking back, finds Hansen to Ibrahim in center field. Something needs to develop. Threads one right underneath for the score.
Ibrahim really a sergeant on this O-line, directing traffic once he has a disc, really calm with the disc as well.
Great work by Paige Hansen there to recognize where the space was, trusting Ibrahim with the disc to find that gap. We could see from the way the Morrirua was set up, perhaps they didn't collapse that zone back to a match defense as cleanly or as precisely as they would have liked. And you'll be able to see that here. You've got players seeking space and sort of attacking channels as opposed to necessarily finding those players themselves. And Ibrahim with a beautiful low release backhand to put another one on the point for Taranaki Thunder.
Yeah, that's always the goal when you're playing offense against a zone. You want to make those passes that allow you to get far enough forward that they have to think about changing their zone defense, because they were absolutely taking those snapshots, looking behind them and really adjusting, which kept them trapped down this end for quite a while. But as soon as they broke through, when they had to change, it really went for them.
Ellington with a great pull, touching down on the near sideline. Dewhurst finds Franson, pushes to Franson on the far sideline now. Taranaki Thunder with an aggressive match defense. Parker quick to initiate the offense off the turn. That's some great mental work there, trying to catch the defense out of position. Szyminski with the disc now. He's been given a lot of room. Makar has it. Parker trying to make herself available. Has to go up and over the top, but Parker's got it anyway. Continues to work to the far sideline to Powick. For Ellington, what a fantastic grab. He was walking a little slow onto the fields this morning, described by one of the sideliners as a little bit dusty after a Saturday night in Wellington, but he clearly has shaken out those cobwebs. Did he even have to jump for that, or did he just reach?
A slight levitation.
It seems like a game of who has a better flow out of the two teams, right? Once they continue the flow, don't stop, don't let the defense get set, right? And that's how you're going to score points in this game, and that's how you're going to win this game, right?
Absolutely. That's what it comes down to, is once the defense is out of position, they're not able to have an impact on what you do with the disc. And as long as you have nice motion throws, good patience and stability as you continue to move the disc up the field, that's how these things unfold. And so we've seen Taranaki Thunder with a little bit of a comeback, putting two on the board back-to-back, keeping the score tied, which is exactly what we're hoping to see for the second day of the 2023 Division 2 Mixed Ultimate Championships. Hansen with a great pull, cheekily through the legs of Dewhurst, and Holman's able to shut down that first pass. Carroll has it. Raba shutting down Dewhurst with a gentle touch that's just enough to keep it out of hand. Some really great squirrely defense on display there. India Hansen pushing wide through Raba, who bounces back.
They've set up a transition zone there, which is quickly getting into the zone after a turn, which is quite impressive. It's, they've managed to already put pressure on the disc in a way that's often quite hard.
Absolutely. Quite often we generally, I'd say in the majority of cases, you only typically see a zone being called when you're coming out on defense. Because one of the things with a zone is that it requires good positional establishment. And that's really hard to do if you're out of position or all over the place from having played a string of offensive possessions. So we see Raba now, Scubas over the top to India Hansen. Liston available as a reset. Through to Raba. One quick shot through to Chow as Taranaki Thunder go up by one.
Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, that transition zone was very interesting. I think that speaks to the discipline and training of Morrirua, honestly. To come out as a transition zone must be their go-to kind of defense to play. So yeah, hope to see more of that, honestly.
And I think it's important to recognize that the structure of the zone is going to make a difference with that as well. Depending on what offensive structures they're playing as well, it's going to have an impact on where players are likely to be after a turnover. And that's going to dictate which positions and spaces those players should occupy when they start to establish that transition zone. But they are up by one. Some confident players on the line so far.
That's Powick with the disc of the pull.
But it looks like they are going to be sticking to a match defense as Carroll, Allen, and Franson work through, but Powick is too squirrely. Manages to drop one through, finds Armstrong for Morrirua, who bounces back to Franson. Allen tries for an upline, but it's Carroll who gets it on the truck and trailer. Threads one through. Armstrong has it. Quick far side push with the reset. Carroll comes back to Franson, tries to get a bite out of the defense. And Powick with a layout to block that one, giving possession back to Taranaki Thunder. This is the Taranaki that we saw yesterday.
Powick was really grinding hard at that point. He was not letting his man get under at all.
Ibrahim to Powick. We're seeing a slightly different zone here. We've got a single player on the chase who's doing all the work trying to mark the disc, and a second line of 4 players by the looks of things, trying to just shut down anything in the second line, and then 2 players parked up in that deep space. But Inamura and Powick able to work that near sideline through to Wong, center field. Williams just outside the outstretched hands of Allen. Comes back to Wong, big fake to shift the defense, swings back to Ibrahim. Wide open on the far sideline. Ellington puts one through as Taranaki Thunder take the lead for the second time in the game. 23 minutes in to our game to 15. We'll see that again. Williams to Wong. Big fake to the near sideline. Inamura an option, but we go back instead. We find Ibrahim, Ellington, and then threads one through and pass to Powick for the score.
That makes it bookends for him.
That's absolutely fantastic. After that layout grab, he definitely deserves that one. Just really smooth. Great work there by Taranaki Thunder to put them up by 2.
Again, a game decided by flow. They worked it up on this close sideline and then decided to kind of reset themselves, swing it to the far sideline and push it up, punch it through for the goal. So let's see if Morrirua can mount a little run of themselves and see themselves back in that game, back in this game.
Yeah, I don't know what they spoke about during that timeout, but it clearly worked.
Absolutely.
It is one of the things, one of the sort of jokes at a lot of social tournaments is the 2 hardest games to play are the one after Saturday lunch and the first one on Sunday morning. But these teams are out here, they're taking it seriously. It's important, and they're leaving it all behind as Benedicto has the disc, pushes center field to Priestley.
Such a nice stack. It creates so much space for them all.
Great grab there by Collet Nye. Number 58 for Morrirua. A great score. Just fantastic work peeling away, getting that separation from the defender. Nice into open space. And I think the important thing to note there as well is there wasn't a lot of other attack happening in that deep space. So just for a bit of context, if you're playing in a match defense, typically your defensive assignment is going to be sticking quite tight to you. If you have 2 or 3 of your players all pushing in towards the deep space, that unoccupied space very quickly becomes a bit of a scramble with 6 players there vying for the disc. So getting the timing right, getting the spacing right to cut alone into that deep space when you've got a confident thrower like Benedicto to put that long shot up, really, really good vision and great teamwork there.
Yeah, Benedicto had some great shape on that inside forehand, throwing it to the space where only the receiver can go get that. So yeah, great shot by Benedicto.
So Morrirua to come out on defense now. Franson with the disc for the pull. It's going to touch down and skim just a little bit in the Taranaki defensive half. Nickel and Liston in that backfield space against the Morrirua zone. Works back with Raba to Nickel near side. Big fake, tries to shift the defense, but they're not going to bite again. Liston pushing close to the near sideline with an outside. Just towed in by Ellington. Nice high shot over the top, finds Raba, center field, in front of position on the desk. Great layout by Hansen there. Nickel and Liston making themselves available as options to let Raba really quarterback this one. Ellington looks back, finds Nickel, goes to Holman on the far sideline. We see Hansen making an upline cut. There it is. Quick continuation to Raba for the score for Taranaki as they go 6 over Morrirua 4.
They swung that from side to side so many times. It really makes the zone work hard. Really created those options for them.
Absolutely, and I mentioned earlier that a couple of ways to get around a zone. One of them is to go over the top, but what we saw from Taranaki was very, very effective zone offense, particularly against the style of the zone. It really does depend on what zone structure your defense is coming down with. The zone that Morrirua put on gave Taranaki Thunder the option to use the width of the field a lot better. So they moved the disc backwards and forwards, and as the zone struggled to keep up, they'd bring it back. They were just trying to tire them out and slow them down just enough to create those openings in the downfield. We saw that great upline cut, a very aggressive attack from Hansen for Raba, and then the immediate continuation for the score was just absolutely fantastic. And so we're seeing another timeout being called in the first half. So, Morrirua, they were up by 2. They've let things slip. They put one more on the board, and then they've just given up another one. Jackson, what adjustments would you be making if you were the Morrirua zone defense, really trying to shut down Taranaki's incredible flow?
They've stuck strictly to their zone defense. I like it. It's good. I've seen the discipline. They don't really bite on any of the fakes. I would like to see a match defense come out from Morrirua, just to, change things up, give Taranaki a different look, and to see how they can handle their match defense.
Absolutely. Looking at the Morrirua line, they've got some absolute guns on there. Kate Franson, a lot of experience, very, very squirrely, and a fantastic handler defender. Tony Franson, he's like a diesel engine. He just goes and goes and goes. Parking him up against one of your downfield cutters, it's an absolute, it's just about a shutdown. Likewise, Kieran Allen, he's basically, his hands and feet are on springs. So even in a match defense, he'll quite often find opportunities to help elsewhere. And when he's marking you always think you have more room than you do. So I couldn't agree more. It would be really interesting to see how they're able to implement a match defense. We've seen how hard the Priestleys are working, just really grinding out in the front of that zone, working through that middle. It'd be nice to see if they were to take those legs and really park them on a single player and just work and grind them down.
Loving that energy from Morrirua coming out their timeout. Great energy. I've always wanted to be louder than the other team. So great to see Morrirua bringing that energy to the game.
Power with the disc for Taranaki Thunder for the pull. Morrirua with the disc on the far sideline, finds Carroll, works with Benedicto, and a pick has been called. So a reminder for those watching at home, Ultimate is a non-contact sport. Players have to pick their lines such that a defender's ability to pursue their assignment is not inhibited by the movement or positioning of another player. So players are given the option to catch up. Great put by Benedicto there to find Carroll on a squeaky upline cut. A laser beam through. Great bid by Powick, but it's not enough.
That's a shot you take when you know your receiver.
Absolutely.
How fast he could put that through.
Absolute laser show. I feel as though a throw like that needs sound effects. But evidently, look at that again. What a great bid. Fantastic hustle by both of those players in the end zone. They clearly had a healthy breakfast.
Yeah, great shot by Benedicto.
What a huge, huge shot. Absolutely dead straight. No curve to it at all, unlike the bananas that were proudly provided to us by one of our key sponsors, New World.
They're looking to Benedicto for those big shots. I would like to see Taranaki adjust to that, so whoever is matching up against Benedicto, maybe a bit flatter on the mark, so he's not able to put up those big shots.
So the score 6-5, still in favour of Taranaki Thunder. 2 points away from half as we've moved to games to 15 for the second day. Nickel finds Raba on the far sideline. Chips through to Szymanski. Parker as an option, supported by Ellington on the near sideline. Just a little call for disc width to make sure that... Oh, a great attempt by Dewhurst, but it's not going to be enough. Szymanski's there and has Ellington as a continuation option. Big fakes. Threads one straight through to Shao. What a fantastic work there. You could see as well that Szymanski pushed forward into the end zone and had turned around, was looking for the disc. Ellington, a great holster as the defense was right behind her. Could have got a touch in on that disc. Just took that extra second, just enough patience to find another option. And as we pointed out yesterday, entirely too often, the better option is to find one of your female matching players and just give them the disc. Who would have thought it? Mixed ultimate. Using your ladies is a good idea.
Ladies win your games. Ladies
Absolutely.
Win
See, again.
I firmly believe in this.
See, and that's the option, right? It's one of those things as well. I think there's a slight leveraging of the kind of inherent histrionics to male-on-male competition, is that players, even really, really aware ones, quite often get tunnel vision and don't perceive open ladies as the threats that they are. And the teams that win are the ones that recognize that and capitalize on it the best. We saw that a whole bunch yesterday. Hansen for Flo was doing some fantastic work pulling down points. Likewise for Gen 3 as well. And especially in those zone defenses where you're not picking a single player to track down, you're trying to target space. If you have a male matching player and a female matching player cutting into the same area, who's going to get picked up? And is that a mistake you can afford to make when the ladies are putting on a clinic like they are this morning? We have Allen with the disc. And almost as though the curse of the commentator was real, Carroll was available as a far side option for that reset, and instead Allen looked to the near side, looked to find Benedicto, and ended up sending one deep. The pressure from Holman just enough to miss time Tony Franson's jump, generating a turnover, giving the disc back to Taranaki Thunder as Powick starts to push down the far sideline. Makar was an option on an upline, pulling the defense out of the way, finds Raba, swings back, keeping the defense on its toes. Powick to Raba, far sideline. Powick, Makar with a big fake. Raba has the disc as the Morrirua zone are able to push them back. Raba, Hansen with a slide, and it's not gonna be enough. So Morrirua have an opportunity to bring it back to a 1-point game. Taranaki want to shut this one out so they can take half. Benedicto has the disc. Powick so aggressive on defense. Once again, an unmarked Carroll is an option looking back, but instead we push forward, and it's Kieran Allen with the score as Morrirua take it back to a 1-point game.
That transition zone by Morrirua, once the disc turned, was great. It really stunted any movement going upfield for Taranaki. So it looks like they've started to really crack down on Taranaki's offense and really pressure them where they can't move the disc.
Holman looked like he gave up on that one. Recognised he was beat and just walked off. But a great score there by Morrirua to bring it back within one. Some fantastic athleticism on display, just like the kind you can expect from one of our sponsors, Pure Sports Nutrition, helping us to keep our athletes upright through a very intense 2 days of tournament in Awakarangi Park in Wellington. As Dewhurst sends up the pull, nice and long, fielded by Ibrahim, supported by Nickel and Liston. As we see a quite loose stack from the Taranaki side.
Ibrahim still directing traffic. Love that from him.
Ellington slips on the release of that one. You could see it on her face.
She wants that one back, definitely.
And so the question is, are Taranaki Thunder going to be able to put on the fire to get it back as Franson threads one right through to McCoy, marked by Ibrahim, to Carroll as Williams trails. Franson's an option. Nickel slowly closes. Can't afford to give up those windows because she knows Kate has that big forehand. Ellington gets it back just like you called it, Jackson. Fantastic as Williams gets the reset, pushes back to Ibrahim. Finds Wong as an option, but it's Williams through the middle of the zone. Ellington should be careful to plant her feet as she finds Liston right on the doorstep. A nice forehand. Floated and pulled down. Who else but Powick? No, not Powick, sorry. Don't want to go accidentally attributing people's scores to the wrong people, but what a fantastic play that was. I think that was Dylan Booth who managed to secure that one. Fantastic work there.
Great work by Ellington there. Wanting that disc back, grinding on that D, getting that poach block in the lane. So great to see that from Ellington.
Grinding on that D indeed. That's going to bring us to half-time. So the score is 8-6 in the opening match of the second day of our stream coverage, proudly supported by ULTI.TV. My name, as always, is Blair Munro.
I'm Jackson Zhao.
And we will be back with you for the second half very shortly. And we are back for the second half as Benedicto going to pull for Taranaki Thunder to open us up in the second game, our first game of the second day of the 2023 Division 2 New Zealand Mixed Ultimate Championships at Awakairangi Park in Wellington, as Raba finds Powick working with Parker to chip through that Morrirua zone. Parker with an option to swing back to Raba, but he has to lose yards in order to get around the zone defense. McCoy, nice and aggressive. We've got Ellington with the disc in centre field. Looks back for Parker. Powick with Inamura as support. Goes over the top for a quick up line, but it gets shut down. Swings back to Parker instead. McCoy very aggressive on the mark at the moment. Ellington, Parker, swings wide to Inamura. Back to Parker. The zone is doing what it's supposed to. It's pushing them back. Parker with a nice hammer over the top finds Powick. The zone's slow to adapt. It allows a shot up the line to Ellington. Wants to bounce to Raba, but the mark is in the way. It's McCoy. He's just too busy. The trap is slowly closing. Raba tries for something in motion. Franson nearly gets a bite, but Ellington's the one who comes down with it. It's Szymanski through to Raba. Pushes wide across field to Powick. Szymanski wants the long shot, but it doesn't come through. Finds Ellington right on the doorstep. The zone slowly closes the trap, has to bounce back, finds Raba, Inamura. Raba was an option, but it's not going to come through. It's Parker in the middle of the field. The cuts are happening, but not a lot's developing. It's Powick. Quick offload to Ellington. Can't jump it in, but Ellington can. Not quite. Swings back to Parker instead. It's Powick, Raba. Some really great flow, just as you were saying, Jackson. Fantastic flow from this Taranaki side, and it's the team that has the flow that's going to make the difference. Raba right on the doorstep. He's pushed in by the zone. It's Powick. Goes wide. Ellington was calling for it. Had an option, but Parker doesn't see it. Closed off by McCoy. Waits a little bit. Inamura has the disc. Wants the early offload. Can't find it. Raba was there as an option. It's McCoy. Waiting. Baiting. Annihilating. Took me just a half a second too long to think of the third rhyming word. That's disappointing. Sorry, everyone at home. Benedicto's going to pick it up and initiate for the offense. It's McCoy. Now, Miriam, you noticed something quite interesting and very effective about McCoy's play style that we'll talk about once this call is resolved. Just a reminder for those at home, Ultimate is a non-contact sport. A very impressive and athletic bid. Looks like the foul will have been accepted. Szymanski saying that the contact definitely had an impact on the ability of the Morrirua offender to take the disc. Nice blade over the top. Benedicto putting it up. Szymanski comes down with it. McCoy immediately getting in position at the front of that zone. There's the high blade. Pressure from the defense just enough for Raba to make an uncharacteristic drop.
As we see a vert from Morrirua.
That's McCoy open as the disc goes up over the top. The tall Ellington manages to put one through to Franson for the grab. What a great first point out of the half as Morrirua bring it back to a 1-point game.
Love to see the energy from Morrirua after scoring that point. For Taranaki, low time of possession with the disc. Love to see it, great flow. Unfortunately, the baiting defense from Morrirua. On the flip side, great display from Morrirua from their zone. Really stopping those give and goes, really collapsing the defense on those. So let's hope Morrirua can keep this up and Taranaki find adjustments to break down Morrirua's zone.
Such a greatly contested match, this one. These teams are trading. I think we've never had a point differential more than 2, which is absolutely fantastic to see. Really, really tight game. It's exactly what you'd expect for the second day of the tournament. That defensive zone was just genuinely textbook. Forcing those passes, and as patient as the Taranaki Thunder offense was on that last point, eventually they got the end zone fever. They tried to force it. McCoy was there to eat it up and ends up throwing the assist to Franson for the score. Ibrahim, Nickel, Holman, as we see that zone again, swings through, finds Ibrahim, pushes to the far sideline for Raba.
Again, low time of possession with a disc here.
Trying to bounce one away from Hansen, comes back through Ibrahim to Nickel. Holman is an option, goes back, but you're exactly right, Jackson. I think they're trying to keep that stall count low. So much like a shot clock in basketball, the player on the disc has 10 seconds as counted by their opposition to release the disc before it's an automatic turnover. But we're not seeing any possessions last longer than 3-4 seconds. It's really good pace of play. Slips one past Carroll. What a great shot. Taraba comes back through Nickel. Holman near sideline. Faking that forehand. Ibrahim with a misread, but he's able to get it.
Great bid by Ibrahim.
Huge play to keep that one on. Outran his own hat.
I'm genuinely surprised we haven't seen any hammers from this Taranaki Thunder team. Played with quite a few of them before, and it's one of their favourite throws. And in this weather, I'm genuinely shocked they haven't put a few more of those over the zone there.
I personally would love to see a few more hammers. Like you said, the conditions are kind of optimal for it. It's not particularly windy, so there's not going to be any issues with the face of the disc catching the wind. There it is. A scuba. And a great attempt by Holman to keep that alive as it bounces off the fingers. Such good ambition, such drive, but it's not going to be enough. Armstrong, marked by Sharif, gets the disc off to Kieran Allen. Comes wide to Priestley, marked by Nickel. Holman, nice and aggressive, closing off those gaps. The stall count's getting high, but Allen manages to slip away. Carroll right on the near sideline. Raba throws up a foot to shut down the lane. Count's getting high, but Allen's going to get the disc again. Holman, nice and aggressive on the mark. Comes through low. It's not going to stop Priestley getting a hand to it. Nickel in position on defense. Carroll with the reset. Puts the shot up. Just overthrows. Showers there to close it down, making sure that no Morrirua receiver can get a hand to it.
Great defense from Taranaki, really trapping them on this close sideline. Love to see that from them.
Really aggressive match defense as well. We're seeing them stick tight. We're seeing them apply a lot of pressure on the mark as well. We've got Ibrahim to pick up and initiate as we see a staggered horizontal stack by the looks of things. Taranaki almost having 2 lines of downfield players. So they're looking for those continuation cuts early. If they can break past that first line of defense, and they should have some great continuation options. Finds Holman working with Hansen. Raba, Hansen Great flow. Raba again working that sideline. A big fake shifting the defense. It's Hansen midfield. The defense slowly closing. Raba finds an opening. Hansen takes a few steps as Raba jumps in for the score.
Great work by Hansen and Raba on that far sideline, never letting the defense settle and get adjusted.
So many times you see when players start doing those 1-2 that they take that one shot too many because they haven't taken that thought and it gets deep. But they really took that moment in the middle, slowed it down and sped it back up again and really leaving the defense behind them.
Yeah, dictating the pace is a huge, huge factor in the efficacy, the efficiency, the quality of that flow play. As you say, Miriam, a lot of the times people get tunnel vision. They start to bring the pace up or they bring the speed up without controlling the pace. And all of a sudden, disc is in hand and it's immediately thrown, but the receiver's not ready for it, or just something goes wrong, the execution isn't there, and that's when those turnovers happen. But Taranaki, so precise with it and really able to slow and swing back. So Taranaki to come out on defense. Powick with the disc for the pull. There's Ellington, Booth, Parker, Williams supporting.
A mismatch in gender at each end. Not quite doing the same thing there.
So as part of one of the most recent updates to the rules of the World Flying Disc Federation in an interest to improve gender parity, the gender split is always 4-3, but it changes every 2 points as to whether or not the majority is female matching players or male matching players. Dewhurst working with Benedicto against Taranaki match defense. Powick nice and aggressive. Williams trying to shut down Dewhurst. Finds Benedicto. But as you were saying, Miriam, just making sure that teams are on the same page as to what the gender majority should be. And the gender majority, oh, great snatch. What a fantastic grab there over the top of two taller players by Priestley as Benedicto puts one up. Little collision-y. Dewhurst goes over the top. Ellington gets it back. Ellington with the disc. Great bid by Dewhurst. It's not going to be enough. Powick gets the pass. Booth is wide open. Benedicto in hot pursuit. He jumps it, but it's not going to be called in. Benedicto shuts down the pop pass to Powick. Great vision there. Big wind up for a safe reset to Franson. Finds Franson near sideline, marked by Ellington. Candy pushes back to Benedicto, marked by Powick. Franson to Franson. Little bladey, but McCoy's got it. Who's going to be the support? Pushes back to Dewhurst and then immediately tries to make some space in the end zone for a score. Dewhurst under pressure. Powick poaching off to shut down Benedicto despite the space between them. It's Candy. Tries to look back, getting in Franson engaged, but it's not going to be enough. There's McCoy with the disc, marked by Williams, pinned down on the far sideline. Not enough developing. Dewhurst can't get it in time. It's Booth with a tip.
We see a call on the field.
So another pick call, looking like a defender was out of position because the path their offensive counterpart took prevented them from following. And they'll make a question as to whether or not it happened before or after the throw and what impact, if any, it may have had on the play. Such a good defensive awareness by Booth, though, to get that touch. Dewhurst trying to be sneaky, trying to force that upline cut for a score. Looks like we'll be going back.
Exciting ultimate to see so far, though. A battle in the air. Love to see it.
Huge. Powick shutting down Benedicto as an option. Has to go back to an open Dewhurst, but Booth quick to set position. Candy has it. Finds Franson. Ellington on the mark, but Franson keeps possession alive despite an impressive performance by Power to shut that down. Franson tries to force one over the top. It finds turf, and so possession's going to go to Taranaki. Parker to pick up and initiate, hoping to widen the score, but a timeout has been called. A veteran call, probably intended to just give everyone an opportunity to catch their breath. But we will be back with you shortly after this timeout for the thrilling conclusion of this match. Welcome back to the second half. The score currently 9-7 in favour of Taranaki after that timeout. Taranaki to take possession. It's going to be Parker, supported by Powick and possibly Ellington to initiate the offence. Some fantastic work. I wonder if either team has decided they need to make any adjustments through that timeout. We will see how this unfolds as 7 players from each team take the field. A horizontal stack by the looks. Just moments away. We're going to allow the offensive side, Taranaki Thunder, to set their positions. And then Morrirua will check and establish their defensive positions, and then play will resume. It's Parker with the disc. Powick slips from McCoy, finds Ellington. Booth starting to stretch it deep. Ellington, nice and patient. Looks back, finds Parker. Gets to Williams via Powick. Back to Powick. A nice little half pivot backhand. Finds Owen Ellington for the score as Taranaki Thunder hit double digits for the first time. 10 over the Morrirua 7.
He was every second pass coming through there and taking really good options. He's really helping them through.
Definitely an important point to win. By far the longest point of the game so far. Really tiring everyone out on that point. So let's see how Morrirua bounces back.
Like I always say, though, the longest points just mean both teams are playing great defense. And based on some of the bids that we saw Power get a I think it was Booth who got a tip on the inside on that upline from Dewhurst. I think Powick again had a couple of touches when they were right on the doorstep of the end zone. That one just before our timeout, I think, in our replay, we did see there was a slight touch which caused the wobble of the disc, and Candy wasn't able to keep it off the turf. Just fantastic work here. Raba with the pull. His little mini mullet dusting in the wind, fielded by Benedicto to Carroll early as Szymanski initiates the defense. First one down there. Carroll slips one right through the in hands of his intended receiver. It's Ibrahim to pick up in the offensive half for Taranaki Thunder. We see Morrirua immediately make that transition to zone again. Hansen has it. Ibrahim getting pinned down, has to swing wide back to Raba. Nice and through, finds Hansen. Ibrahim with a very, very close grab, a little bit of contact there. Raba has it. A call from the sideline to trap, just shifting the positioning of that zone. Are we going to see the hammer? He wants it. You could see it in his eyes. Instead, safe play, looks back, finds Raba. Nice angled forehand to find Hansen. Swings to the far sideline for the other Hansen. Taraba again. Liston was an option. Called for it. Scuba over the top to Ibrahim instead. Finds Szymanski. Goes around with a lefty backhand to the far sideline. Finds Raba. Liston on a great deep upline. Over the top. Szymanski just outside the hands of Allen, but he's not going to be in. Drops back to Hansen. And a turnover for Morrirua. What an absolute heartbreak. It's Benedicto looking for Allen on an upline cut. Finds Raba. Szymanski closing the trap, but Allen has Carroll as support. Liston slow to get into position. It's Allen again, more on an upline. She's clearing the space. Carroll on another upline cut. Manages to find Benedicto despite great pressure from Szymanski. There's the hammer. Little bit of a fumble. It looks like it found hands. An accepted foul by Hansen. So we'll see again. Yeah, I think possibly as Priestley looked to cushion that catch and she slipped back, the shock of it will have caused her to drop. So the foul was accepted. Carroll tries to push to the far sideline to Priestley, but slightly overcooks it. So Taranaki Thunder have an option. Szymanski calling for the disc. He's wanting to stretch it deep. Ibrahim to pick up. Scuba over the top. He's starting to take those risks. Raba to Hansen. To Hansen. Liston. Back to Ibrahim. To Liston again near sideline. We've got more Priestley, Carroll, and Carroll trying to shut that down. Carroll forces them to lose yards on the reset to Liston as we go wide across the field. Taraba to Hansen. Taraba again seeing Szymanski with those low possession times. Hansen with a great attempt on that one. Face down on the turf. He tried for that sneaky half pivot backhand. He looked a little off balance. Maybe just taking that extra second could have got that one in hands for a score. But now Taranaki Thunder going to have to play on defense. Looks like a travel was called. And it looks like the travel was called a lot earlier in the play. Now, a little rules query discussion that we've just had in the commentary booth as to whether or not a travel call should have impacted that turnover. I don't believe that that's the case. Possessions need to be completed after travel has been called in order for possession to stand. So that that missed throw in the back corner should have given position to Morrirua anyway. Now, they've managed to secure it through defense, so in the end, the disc knows.
This don't lie.
This doesn't lie. So Morrirua now, it's Benedicto on an upline, Raba trailing, Benedicto lets it unleash, it's Ibrahim and Carroll! Ibrahim with a great defensive positioning on that one.
Great positioning.
Oh, Carroll has the height, but Ibrahim just taking that inside line, slipping his shoulder in, keeping Carroll offline from where that disc was going to be. Just fantastic experience on display there. Raba and Ibrahim to Hansen.
Taranaki Thunder have been doing.
Absolutely. Just such fantastic work. And even then, the quick offload immediately in motion, up to full speed early. And it can feel like a bit of a thankless job being the one doing all the cutting when you're not getting those touches on the disc. But consider just how it's opening up the field. Ibrahim manages to go back to Raba and Hansen. Szymanski has it. Back to Hansen. Fakes the scuba, goes back to Ibrahim. Raba's an option. There's not a lot developing for them that they can hit. So much pressure from the Morrirua defense is closing down a lot of those options, even though those cuts are very viable. Finally, they manage to slip one through. Hansen over more, back to Ibrahim. He winds up the scuba, holsters it. Carroll on the mark. It's Raba. Carroll and Priestley heading the Morrirua defense. Szymanski to Liston. Ibrahim trying to quarterback off the desk. He gets it. Comes back to Raba to Liston in motion. Big fakes to open up the far sideline are there. But they're not targeting it. Raba, he tried to put one across to Hansen, but it wasn't going to come. Ibrahim to Hansen now. The Morrirua zone slowly closing in. He wants the overhead, has to go for a scuba. Raba to Hansen, to Raba, to Liston. And in motion forehand. Ibrahim bounces up over the top of Carroll to Liston, threads one through for Hansen and the score. Taranaki Thunder going to 11 over the Morrirua 7.
That felt like Taranaki Thunder a few points ago. Low time of possession, really moving that disc side to side, never letting the defense settle.
Just honestly fantastic patience as well. We saw quite a lot of variety in a team's approach to his own offense yesterday. A lot of teams making those first few passes nice and patiently, then getting frustrated or bored and either throwing it long for a turnover or just sending their deepest player into the deep space to pull down a disc. To see Taranaki being pressured by that zone so aggressively and still never losing sight of each pass, one at a time, stringing them together for that score. It's a great mental display as well, because Taranaki are only playing the present point. Quite often when you're up by 4, you're down by 4, doesn't really matter. You tend to develop this habit of, we've got to score the next point, we've got to score the next point. You can't do that until this point has concluded. And Taranaki Thunder really demonstrating that by focusing on what's happening in front of them. Nice high pull coming out towards our commentary booth. Heads up to Rexy.
Love to see both teams with the upside down throws, hammers and scubas, really getting comfortable.
Dewhurst marked by Power, nice and aggressive. Great athletic stance there, goes over the top, finds Armstrong, tries to thread an inside to Franson, but it's not going to happen because Holman's just too much. Parker now on Franson. Ellington with a great run through over Candy.
She's been playing great defense this game.
So fantastic to watch. Just absolutely all over the place on defense, really focused on offense. Dewhurst gets it back on the far sideline.
Another player with great defense.
Just absolutely huge. Franson gets the disc, marked by Williams. Franson going shoulder to shoulder with Parker, ends up tripping, but it's not going to have an impact on the play. Franson now with Dewhurst as a support player, looks for Franson instead, threads one through, Priestley's got it. Ellington in position. Just enough pressure from the defense. Dewhurst can't get it. Parker saw Ellington as an option, but Franson shuts down the window. It's Williams to Holman, to Shao. Back to Holman. Parker as a support option. Goes around the defense to find her. Powix there. Franson bails out of the cut to make sure that he can establish that zone position as necessary. Williams cuts a little bit too tight. Priestley's able to shut that one down. Looks like we have an injury call. I think Franson's trip earlier might have taken her out for the rest of the point. Carroll to come in as a substitution. Carroll, who we've seen do some fantastic work in that zone defense for the Morrirua side. Typically up the front, really aggressive on the disc. She'll be taking one of those wing spots. We'll see what she's able to do. And as you said, Miriam, earlier, it's that aggressive pressure up front that allows those wings to come in and take a bite out of the disc. Maker on the far sideline, looks back, finds Holman to Parker near side. Williams was an option, but the throw didn't come out early enough as Priestley closes the trap. Through to Powick via Maker in the midfield. Holman to Parker again. Ellington closed down by Franson. Manages to come under, takes some free yards, trips back through to Holman, who's got a quick continuation to Powick, who's immediately in motion. The throw came out a little bit too vertical, giving possession back to Morrirua with an opportunity to bring that back to a 3-point game to close the widest lead we've seen in this fantastic clash. Dewhurst with a laser show. Touches out of the hands of Armstrong. Holman in hot pursuit. And now Taranaki Thunder with a long field ahead of them if they want to close out this point.
As we see Power picking up the disc. Let's see if they have that low time of position with the disc. Keep on moving the disc side to side.
Maker to Powick. Ellington on that near sideline calling for the disc. But it's Powick through the midfield. Dewhurst with a great bid. Who's going for it? It's Powick over Franson. Ellington, a lot of separation. But the positioning isn't there. Yes, it is. It's Ellington with the score. That is mixed ultimate, folks. You do, in fact, love to see it. Ellington just fantastic on defense. She's doing so well on offense. And just that there. As you pointed out, I think it was very early in the first half, having those two cuts in parallel channels down the field to allow that opportunity to clean up. And that's exactly what Ellington did. Cleaned everything up, just like one of our favorite partners, Low Cost Bins, helping us to keep our Kairangi Park nice and clean. They care about you, they care about Ultimate, they care about the environment. And now Taranaki Thunder up by 5. We've just hit 76 minutes. I believe we have a game to 90 minutes or to 15, whichever happens first. If Taranaki Thunder are able to keep their momentum, it looks like we might have that game to 15, but Morrirua have an opportunity to fire back. We've seen what they can do defensively. We know what kind of pressure they can put on with that zone, but is it going to be enough to slow down the flow? Jackson, you've spoken a lot about how Taranaki Thunder are exemplifying that low time of possession, stringing 3, 4, 5 passes together before we as the commentators get a chance to even see what's happening. Is the zone going to be enough to shut that down? Or do we want to see a little bit more of that match defense? We know that a lot of those Morrirua players, they're incredibly athletic. We've seen the Priestleys up the front doing a huge amount of grind on that defense. What are they going to be able to do? What can we see them do if they isolate those individual players? But it's Benedicto, marked by Raba. Franson trying to push for an upline. There's the big shot, looking for Allen. Comes down with it over Booth, but he's not in bounds. There's the score for Candy. I did misspeak. He was in bounds, he just wasn't in the end zone. Great score by Candy over Nickel. It's interesting that it took a little bit longer for them to get that one away, and I think that's one of the differences between these two teams, is that when the Taranaki Thunder team, when they send a shot deep, they're quite often having multiple cutters going for it. I think what happened there, Kieran Allen was wide open for it, and possibly the rest of his teammates were thinking, yeah, he'll be able to get that in, we're done. And it's that catch outside of the end zone, and just that extra few seconds it's being eaten up. Oh no, we've got to work. Takes them to catch up. It slows down the flow. having a second cutter there, it just gives that immediate option while the defense is figuring out what the issue is to make that quick continuation.
To answer your question from earlier, Blair, though, as we see Morrirua coming out on defense, I would like to see the adjustment of staying disciplined when they are trapping on that sideline, allowing no break throws over the top or around, and really collapsing and scrambling that defense so there are no give and goes for Taranaki to take advantage of the zone.
They have, in that zone, I think it's starting to get a bit tiring for them, to be honest. They've been making quite a few sniffs, quite a few bids, especially when Abram has the disc. They're being really close to so many of those. But unfortunately, I think it's just taking its toll, and maybe they do need to change it up a wee bit.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I think a lot of players, particularly at lower levels, as Ibrahim picks up to initiate for Taranaki Thunder, they think zone is easier than match. And I think that if you're working as hard as Morrirua are on this zone defense, it definitely shows. You're expending a lot of energy chasing the width of the disc across the width of the field. Bids there, as we see from Priestley, as Ibrahim gets it. Just like you were saying, they're taking bites, especially when Ibrahim gets the disc. Saraba now bouncing off Ibrahim. But it is great to see that they're not really letting up that intensity. They're willing to gas themselves out, which I think is a huge, huge shout out to their leadership, to their mental resilience as well. Makar through to Ellington. Quick offload to Liston on the near sideline. Bouncing one off Ibrahim to get the quick recenter over the top to Raba as the defense is scrambling a little bit. It's Szymanski. The defense able to close that trap. Franson, McCoy, Allen, Priestley. Makar through to Ellington. To Ibrahim again. Are we going to see him finish it off with a hammer? We know Sharif Ibrahim wants to send one. Makar nearly found a gap, but Tony Franson appearing out of nowhere to close that one out. Makar giving Ibrahim half a meter on the near sideline. The scuba around to Raba. Finds Szymanski far sideline. Defense is out of position, but Szymanski slow to use it. Ibrahim to Makar. To Raba. Ellington's wide open in the deep space. A hammer would give it to her. Makar goes to Ibrahim. Scuba again to Raba. Is it just me, or have we seen this exact play happen only moments ago? Ibrahim, Raba, Makar, Raba taking inches at a time, finds Liston in the end zone on a great upline to give the point to Taranaki Thunder. 13-8 over Morrirua at the moment.
Yeah, as you see Raba pivoting over to Ibrahim, back to Raba. Great flow by Raba, really just moving that disc.
Really moving that zone defense as well, getting them wildly out of position and taking advantage of it.
And I think that as the fatigue is starting to set in from expending everything on this zone defense, as the points go on, they do start to slow down and they fall out of position a little bit easier. And Taranaki Thunder able to capitalize on that with some great handler movement, some really safe and secure throws. And the fact that their downfielders are just running absolutely ragged. They're really testing those downfield zone players in the Morrirua defense as well.
Yeah, normally with the zone you want at least a little bit of wind out here, but very uncharacteristically for Wellington there isn't any. So it really means that those over the head throws that are going up, they can be quick. They don't slow down. It's much harder to have a bit on them.
It is uncommon to see a zone played so consistently when there isn't wind. As we sort of pointed out, it's uncharacteristic for Wellington. I think maybe someone made a request for fog and the council weren't able to do the wind as well, as Dewhurst gets the disc on the near sideline, finding Armstrong. We've spoken about a couple of the ways to break past the zone. Great attempt by Priestley, but it's going to be Hanson who comes down with it. Ibrahim round about the red zone, puts the long shot up for Powick, and the score taking us 1 point away from a Taranaki Thunder victory. The ability to go over a zone is one of the best ways to break it. And that's the reason why you typically use it in the wind. It takes away one of the easiest options to get around that zone. So when there's no wind, and particularly when you do have players like Holman, Ibrahim, who's putting on some great upside-down performances, those throws are in their bag, they're in their arsenal, they're the kind of throws they like to use. It's a little surprising we haven't seen more of them, especially when the conditions are the way they are. And so Taranaki Thunder sending 7 players out for what they hope will be the last time. Inamura, Booth, Ellington, Powick, Raba, and Shao. Against Franson, Benedicto, Carroll, Priestley, Candy, Carroll, and more for the Morrirua side. It's Carroll, marked by Parker, finds Benedicto, looking to break past Powick, puts the little backhand in, but Candy can't get a hand on it. Just enough of a touch, but not able to secure that one. We are in the red zone, only about 25 meters away from a Taranaki Thunder score as Powick picks up. Great inside break to Ellington. To Booth, throws a wobbly forehand. Shao can't manage to get it. But this is a great opportunity for Taranaki Thunder to apply pressure on the defense. It's a horrible corner to be in. But Benedicto, a confident handler for the Morrirua side, has the disc. Manages to get out of the corner, finds Carroll. Moore is an option, but she's not super active. Tries to throw between Carroll and Candy. A little bit of miscommunication. And so it's given Taranaki Thunder a lot of yards. One throw away from victory on a good isolation here. We're going to see what happens. Parker picks up to initiate. Powick makes the first cut. Pinned down on the sideline. It's Raba. So close to the doorstep, but we're going to see a dynamic finish. They go wide. Powick had Ellington as an option, but she started to slow. There it's going to be. There it's not going to be. Over the top of Inamura. Absolute heartbreak for Taranaki Thunder. That might have been a good opportunity for a little bit of patience, just holding the trigger on that one for another second. It's difficult not to get end zone fever when you're 1 point away from winning. And that's Powick with a Callahan finish. My God, Father. What a fantastic finish. One of our men of the match. Powick managing to intercept a score in the end zone, or intercept a throw in the end zone from the Morrirua offense to put a point on the board and close out the game for Taranaki Thunder. That's the dynamic finish I think I was asking for as the teams celebrate each other for a hard-fought game. We will be seeing one of these teams again in the future, I believe, but only time will tell. For now, that concludes the first game of the stream coverage for the 2023. Beautiful score by Powick over Benedicto.
It's not your team scoring.
Absolutely. But through heroism and heartbreak, we will be back with you soon for the 2023 Division 2 New Zealand Mixed Ultimate Championships at Awakarangi Park in Wellington. Until then, my name is Blair Munro.
I'm Jackson Zhao.
And I'm Marion Burke.
And it has been a pleasure to be your eyes and ears on the ground for this thrilling match. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to ULTI.TV for bringing you the very best in streaming coverage here in New Zealand, Australia, and around the world. If you like what you see and you want to help us bring you more of the greatest sport in the world, head on over to patreon.com/ULTI.TV and give us your spare change.